Hello and welcome to this episode of our program Arab Affairs. Today we'll start with Egypt. Egyptians abroad started to cast their voices in the second phase of the important parliamentary elections that is supposed to be taking place worldwide today and tomorrow, and domestically or internally on Sunday and Monday. Of course, the Egyptian parliamentary election is the third stage of the agreed upon road map. It is an important step to complete our path towards democracy. The whole world are putting their eyes on us to see how we'll complete this third stage. Now, Egyptian expatriates have already begun voting in the second phase of the parliamentary elections, and voters are set to cast their ballots on Saturday and Sunday, as we said, in 139 polling stations worldwide. The voting process starts at 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. according, of course, to each country's local time. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs said it is following up on the voting process via operation rooms it has set up by the higher election, that were set up by the Higher Election Commission. Vote counting, of course, will begin at the headquarters of the diplomatic missions on Sunday. And in related developments, of course, tomorrow we'll start the voting process internally. So, Minister of Immigration, still with abroad, the Minister of Immigration and Egyptian abroad, Nabila Makram, cited high turnout at diplomatic mission in Saudi Arabia, noting that the voting is running on smoothly. In Jordan, Egyptians are pouring on polling centers in Amman and Aqaba as diplomats and said that the voters' turnout has surpassed that of the very first phase so far, and that means that we are starting fresh. Maybe we're speaking about overcoming any of the problems that were faced by the first stage. Maybe the lessons that we had from the very first stage were averted this time. Of course, we will be asking about this and more. Domestically, electoral silence, of course, is continuing. It started on Friday, 12 p.m., where the second phase, of course, of the parliamentary elections are set to be held in 13 governorates all over Egypt on Sunday and Monday. Minister of Local Development Ahmed Zaki Badr said that the preparations for the vote were concluded at all polling centers. He added that he will follow up on the electoral process himself through operation rooms formed by the HEC, noting that any violations will be dealt with severely and strictly. Meanwhile, the armed forces started deploying a polling station in the governorates for the second phase of the elections, with 160,000 troops on high alert to secure the polls. This is the situation of the elections. We will be discussing that in our first part of our episode. In our second, or later on in our episode, we'll be discussing the UN Security Council's resolution urging its members to ramp up their fight against Daesh terrorism after the Paris attack, as Europe said it would tighten border checks and Brussels issued its highest terror attack. Let's watch the report and we'll come back for discussion.
President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and Russian President Vladimir Putin held a phone talk on cooperation to fight terrorism. Presidential spokesman Ambassador Alaa Youssef said that the two leaders agreed during the talks to coordinate international efforts to combat terrorism. El-Sisi and Putin also agreed on the need to adopt a comprehensive and decisive plan to deal with those who support extremism and terrorism that target all countries. The two leaders also stressed on the strength of the Egyptian-Russian relations. For his part, President el-Sisi expressed Egypt's understanding to the Russian people's grief over the victims of the Russian plane crash. The president pointed out to the cooperation between Egyptian and Russian authorities in the investigations of the plane crash. Meanwhile, Russian lawmakers proposed tougher punishment for terrorists and discussed introducing a raft-induced security measures at a rare meeting of both chambers of parliament. The move is a response to Kremlin confirmation that a bomb downed a Russian passenger plane over Egypt last month, killing all 224 people on board, and follows the Paris attacks in which extremists killed at least 129 people. Russia stepped up its airstrikes against Daesh militants in Syria after concluding the plane had been downed up. But lawmakers say they want to ensure that President Vladimir Putin knows he has their full support if he decided to go further.
Be the first to know. The news live at the site of the event. Information on events as they are happening. If it's breaking news, it's Nile TV. For ads on Nile TV, Egyptian Radio and Television Union, the economic sector. Info at Nile International.
Right, welcome back, and let me start by welcoming our guest today, Dr. Samir Raghib, who is a strategic and political analyst. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you, and thanks for hosting me.
And let's start from our first part of our segment, speaking about Egyptians participating in the third stage of our road map, and we're speaking about the second phase. In the first phase, there were some mistakes made, or maybe that the people were not very much aware with the candidates, were not aware with what they should do. I mean, things were a little bit confusing for people. The second stage, and how important is it to avert all these kinds of problems faced in the first stage?
The same problem still exists. The confused and complicated electoral system, which contains individuals and party-based list. Not like the other ways that ordinary people used to do during Mubarak era, that there are 222 constituencies, and every constituency has 2 candidates, and in runoff there are 4 candidates, then elect 2 from 4, then we have 444 members of parliament. It's easy for ordinary people. After this, during Muslim Brotherhood, there are a mix between proportional list and individuals.
Yes. Before we continue on with our discussion, this is an important, because you are really describing the whole parliamentary issue.
Yes.
But let me take here Dr. Mohammed Al-Gamal, who is head of the Egyptian Expatriates Union in the United States. Good evening to you, sir.
Yes, good morning from here. Good evening to you.
Yes, good morning to you, sir, and a fresh morning for the Egyptians expatriates living abroad. We want to understand and to know, how is the second phase of the parliamentary elections taking place in the United States?
Well, the second phase will start actually in about over an hour and a half from now, till 7:25 roughly here. So it will be open at 9 o'clock. I know many people would be going, but I would not really exaggerate the number of people will be actually going to vote. But many people, I know that they are voting. I'm voting actually today. And we are really looking forward to get this done and put it behind our back and complete the roadmap and let's focus on more important issues like economy and other things.
Yes, as we know that today is Saturday, so we're speaking about a half working day in the United States, yes?
And it's actually Saturday. It's not really, in many organizations, it's actually the day off. And especially Thanksgiving is coming up now. So, but yes, you are right. Some very few organizations like banks and stuff like that are opening today, happy day today.
So how are you expecting the turnout to be this time? And let me here ask you how the whole process is taking place. And we all know that Western countries at large are just putting very heavy security measures and are tightening the grip for any kind of terrorism. So how has Egypt prepared for the process within all these circumstances?
Well, I think the issue of terrorism is on here in the United States for a long time, and everybody is vigilant, and we are really taking care of that, but it has nothing to do really with the elections or the voting process. The consulates and the embassy, we have actually 6 missions in the United States, and I think they are taking good care of the security issue. And I think the people are feeling safe to go and vote.
Yes.
So there will be no issue really in terms of security. But the people are always talking what happened lately in Paris and other places. And it's concern to all of us.
Yes, Dr. Mohammed Gamal, for the very first time, the Constitution here includes an article or stipulates, this article stipulates that
enabling
expatriates, excuse me?
To enable the Egyptians with dual citizens
to be very well represented in this parliament. How is this is perceived in the United States, and if are these elections, or did this article make a kind of linking or expatriates to their homeland? Tell me, how is the feeling about this?
Well, it's a good step, but it's not really very well represented, because we are at least the lowest number we know. It's 10 million people abroad, and if you take just a small calculation, and this is basically more or about 10% at least of the population in Egypt. So therefore, I think the number of seats in the parliament should really be increased. This is number one. But they are starting now to have 8. It's a good step. It's a good start. We are happy about that. We are not complaining about it. But I think we should really, the numbers of Egyptians abroad is large enough to be better represented actually in the parliament. I hope this would be happening in the future. That is number one. Number two, in terms of turnout and all these kind of things, as you know, in the United States, the distance is huge. I mean, people traveling for 2 hours by plane, 6 hours sometimes by cars and so forth. So it's very hard for the people to go and actually vote. So hopefully in the future, the authorities should really look very carefully at the electronic voting, so that people can vote from home, by computers, over the internet, and so forth. And the safety and the security of this process is proven. There's nothing wrong with that. Nobody is going to cheat or anything like that, because this is a proven process. And I hope this will be taken care of. The second thing also, we really hope that I hope the next parliament will look at this as well, is to look at that the Egyptians abroad should elect some people from Egyptians abroad. Right now, the Egyptians abroad are on the list, القائمة. So that list actually is including maybe the 45 list includes 3 people from abroad, and the 15 people list includes 1. So we have 4 lists with 8 people. So the people in Egypt, inside Egypt, they have to vote for the people on the list, including the Egyptians abroad, who they don't know them. And also for us, Egyptians abroad, we don't really know who's in our constituency to vote for him or her. So it's really, it would be better to have special constituents for the Egyptians abroad, maybe 1 to start with for all the Egyptians abroad, or actually 1 for each continent, or 2 for each continent. So I think this will make the process better and well representation for the Egyptians abroad. The Egyptians abroad are, sorry, go ahead.
Let me here ask you exactly my final question. What do Egyptians living abroad need from this upcoming parliament?
We need actually to change the laws to enable investment in Egypt. Is also to make sure there is no difference between the Egyptians abroad and the Egyptians inside Egypt. So we really like to have true equality, and Egyptians abroad are very important segment of the society. They can actually help in the taking Egypt to next level in democracy, in the economy, in every aspect of life. Yes. So I hope they will take care of that and stop talking about loyalty, some for dual citizenship. Egyptians abroad are very loyal to Egypt. Most of those who really stole things from Egypt are not from the Egyptians abroad. Egyptians abroad, all their lives, they like to help Egypt with all means. So we just like to have equality between Egyptians. Egyptians everywhere are Egyptians, and there should be no difference between Egyptians abroad and the Egyptians inside.
Yes, very much indeed. Dr. Mohammed Gamal, head of the Egyptian Expatriates Union in the United States. We thank you very much for joining us. Back to you, Dr. Samir, and just comment.
Yes, I am agree with the new mechanism. This mechanism for Egyptian abroad is ridiculous. How to elect someone whom you don't know. You elect in party-based list 3 of Egyptian abroad, while you don't know each of them. Also, the Egyptian abroad elect candidates from their constituencies, while they doesn't know them or him. Okay.
But you know that there are certain information about each candidate on the internet. You mean they don't know his, if he is as a person entitled to take this position, if really on the reality, not just the profile reading, if he is able and his capabilities, or what exactly do you mean by knowing him? Because I mean here, how would you know a person, or if this person would really carry out with what is requested from him in the next parliament?
Yes.
Unless you really
yes, imagine that I
yourself.
Am an immigrant, Egyptian immigrant, and I have 30 years abroad, and then I presumably to elect someone from my constituency. How I know him?
How do Egyptian people know them?
Know them. The Egyptian encounter that there are no profile for the candidates. There is no electoral programs to elect from. All the electoral process depends on the individual profiles and the influencer in their constituencies, not about their CVs, their
plans, programs.
Yeah, there is program. When we talk about 120 of deputies will come from list. How I know their program? Everyone says that I have the same program of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, and I will join the parliament to support Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. All the countries support Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. It's another process. We elected President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in another constitutional process, not this process. You must speak about your view, your programs, about ecological concerns, about economy, about education. It's not a matter of a race who support Fattah al-Sisi more. It's ridiculous.
Yes.
Also, when we analyze Egyptian abroad problems, most of their problems concerned with their new countries, not in our countries, not in our streets, not in our schools. So,
but with their own problems as
Yes.
Egyptians living abroad.
yes.
Yes.
So, I agree with the suggestions that must in Europe have members in countries with majority of or a large number of Egyptians, like Gulf, like Saudi Arabia. So then they connect their problem with their home country.
Yes, I guess it's a heavy burden, not right, rather a right for Egyptians, and the duty of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and, of course, the Ministry of Migrants.
Yes.
Yes, to work together to reach this.
Yes. Also, we must mention that this system about the quota of disabled and women and Coptic is transitional decrease, not in the second parliament election. It's for one time only. The next parliament will not be quota. There is no seats for abroad and women and disabled and handicapped. So I suggest to make them appointed by the president.
What do you mean by that? I mean, why would that change anyway?
In the constitution, it's
In
a
the Constitution.
transition. Yes, because it's unconstitutional to distinguish a
segment?
Yes, it's unconstitutional. So it's one time only for lists that include quota for women, for Coptic, for...
But at that end, we're speaking about efficiency. Now, if, I mean here, if women who are half of the society, and women are half of the society,
Yes.
truly, should be represented, then we're speaking about efficiency of the choice. I mean, if men are going to well represent them, if women, we're speaking about efficiency, not quotas. That is what
Yes,
exactly you
yes.
meant? Yes.
Oh, it's a good thing in the first round of the election, 5 women won in their district. Well, their district was poor and humble districts. It's a good sign that women capable to reach the House of Representatives without quota application.
Yes.
Also, there are 3 Coptic. Also one in people crowded with Muslim and with Muslim majority.
Yes, we just want to take out of our minds the issue of gender, women or
Yes.
men, or we're speaking about Coptic or Muslims, because we're speaking about people with their own programs, and if this would suit the whole
Yes.
society and,
Yes.
and community.
Yes. Unfortunately, the modest turnout overshadowed that there are significant good things occurred, like women won without any assistance and without any quota. This paves the way for the next parliament. We have more women in the House of Representatives. Also, Coptic won in a district with majority of Muslims. That paves the way and send a message that sectarian is back, is
out.
Is out, not and will not back again. Okay?
Never.
Never.
Never. And that is exactly the situation in Egypt. Yes, there are some problems that have to be faced, but of course...
Before we transfer to another issue, I think the analyst exaggerates the situation. The turnout this time exceed the Mubarak era. During Mubarak era, doesn't exceed 20%. Now we talk about 26% of turnout of voters. Also,
in the first stage, and we don't know yet what to.
And
what
also, we get this fairly, without frauding, without regime manipulation. I think in a fair and transparent election, I think it's a good beginning.
Yes, what I was just about to say is that if the turn was during Mubarak era was 20%, it really didn't mean that people really went by themselves.
Yes, yes.
But they were represented in a way or another.
Yes.
So
the regime do everything instead of the people, even cast their votes.
So I guess we are speaking about real people going to their to cast the real voices. So if we're speaking about a country starting with its first stage towards democracy, and we are preparing the track for real democracy, then 26% in a country like Egypt is a number, whereas some European countries do not even see
also
that.
Consider that Muslim Brotherhood supporters out of the scene, this votes is a real Egyptian patriotic people. That's very good. And also the second election will be more, even the second stage more, maybe better than, not too much, but I think it will be better.
We hope to see transparent, clean, and very much important elections for that's supposed to be fulfilling the aspiration of the Egyptian people. This is the Egyptian elections, and it is important for Egypt. Another issue which is not just important for Egypt, but rather the whole world, and it is a phenomenon that the whole world are really reeling from those days, is the phenomena of terrorism. And on Friday, the UN Security Council has urged already its members to ramp up the fight against Daesh.
Yes.
For the very first time, the UN Security Council urged its members who are the 5 permanent members and the 10 other non-permanent members, to ramp up their fight against terrorism. How do you view this? And why did it has to take all that time and all these attacks when we have been calling for years and years on the world to unite their efforts to put an integral strategy to fight such a phenomenon?
Yes, United Nations has its own military forces, so the conclusion that it is this decree for America and France and NATO to do so. I think decrees and articles, decision will not fight and defeat terrorism. Without inclusive and comprehensive strategies for defeating terrorism, not in Syria only.
But there are UN forces. There are UN forces in many areas of the world.
Peacekeeping force, not
combating forces.
Yes, law enforcement is another matter. If you keep the peace, and also is collecting from the member of the United Nations, but not has dedicated military forces. The United Nations hasn't dedicated forces like America, like Egypt. So I think this message for all the world to cooperate for finding a definition for terrorism in the beginning. Till now, we haven't a definition for terrorism. Each country defined it as its own, not globally to have. So the problem to how to consider Palestinian struggle.
Cause, yes.
Does this struggle is terrorism or legal struggle to free their equipped land? This is a matter.
Yes.
Each country and its allies and its proxies try to round the definition to fit their hegemony and ambitions, not to solve the matter of terrorism.
We're speaking here about a cause that has taken decades and decades with no real solutions, and a very contentious matter that creates a conducive atmosphere for terrorism every day to get more and more powerful, because there is a real cause we're speaking about. We're speaking about Palestinians living in an occupied lands. We're speaking about Israel, who is escalating its aggression every day, more and more, taking more lands. And yes, indeed, the Palestinian cause is a very important matter that the world has to look at it from another angle.
Also, this resolution decrease the embarrassed situation that Russia joined and increase its existence in Syria. So now we are all under umbrella of the United Nations, not to fight each other. Now in Syria there is Russia, there is France.
Yes, do you really think that the United States, with all my respect to the UN Security Council and its resolutions, different resolutions that were adopted throughout history, but not most or very few of them were really implemented. Do you really think, from your point of view, the United States or big powers are awaiting the UN Security Council to act on their own? We haven't seen that when the United States, for an instant, invaded Iraq.
Yes,
did not wait for
outside, out of United Nations umbrellas.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, and we did not see really Russia waiting for the UN Security Council to ramp up a resolution.
The five permanent member of the Council, Security Council, doesn't wait for a resolution from the United Nations. Libya without United Nations in the beginning, Iraq without United Nations resolution. United Nations and the Security Council till now, the resolution 242 and 338, null and void.
Not even to speak about.
Yes.
But what is important this time is that the world has seen that what was created for creating a kind of puppet show to just fear some of the countries has turned to be a global threat.
Yes.
So
yesterday in Mali,
it's just mockery.
Hostages and in Mali, not just in France.
170 hostages in Mali.
Affiliated of Al Qaeda, not ISIS.
Yes.
There are a competition between ISIS and Al Qaeda.
Let's.
Each of them try to prove that there is the most. The most power in terrorism is the king of terrorism in the world.
Let me just say here, let's call it NISIS instead of this so-called ISIS or Daesh is better, because NISIS is non-Islamic, non-Islamic state in Iraq and Sham, and which is really is supposed to be its real name, non-Islamic.
Yes.
And yes, if we can speak about this, then we have to speak about how this time the world should be looking at the issue of terrorism in a very different perspective. Now, it's not the Middle East that is only threatened from terrorism, but rather the whole world. And we've seen the attack in the core of France, Paris, the capital. Yes, in Mali, we've seen many of the terrorist attacks, so in Nigeria, so in the Middle East. It's Terrorism has been taking place in Syria, Iraq, Libya, Yemen, and yes. But since we're speaking about countries who were not attacked in this way before in their core of their own nations, then how should the world be addressing terrorism as a phenomenon?
Must fight the motivation for terrorism. Fight the capabilities of terrorism. And all countries must have enhanced its security capability to decrease the opportunity for the terrorists. Yes? When you have intelligence agent support terrorism, when you have media support terrorism, you see Al Jazeera almost the first channel that announced the announcement of ISIS or Al-Qaeda.
Yes.
Nobody asks himself how they get it the first every time, even in North Sinai. During the explosion in North Sinai, the first channel, TV channel that declares this. How to distinguish between Islam and some Muslim behaviors. In Friday accident in Paris, those people grow up in Paris and Belgium, not in our land. They educated in their schools and their mosques, not our. How?
So you're addressing a very important point here. Who are supervising the mosques abroad?
How you punish me about your children, your people, your culture? The dilemma in Paris that the right wing begin to grow the uncoexistence culture. When you speak about France community, multicultural, multi-religious, and without coexistence, it will be disaster. After the terror attack, then Marie Le Pen speak about closing mosques and eliminate the nationality who involved in terrorism. Also, individuals began to attack Muslims and Muslim women wear hijab. This is the first present for Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. Then, if now ISIS was a connection with some of 100 or of tens, after this will be in connection with thousands of terrorism or project of terrorists. This is a dilemma. It's a dilemma. Anybody in the world encounter a terrorism goes to Syria to have an air campaign and bomb everything, destroy everything. While the main problem in their culture, those people not our, they even doesn't know Arabic to speak Arabic. It's pure French people from the third generation or fourth generation, not the first immigrant generation.
But that also, I don't know if that should be also our problem to address, because if we're speaking about Arabs who are living abroad, and that raises a big question mark on their education, who are educating them, and who, particularly religion, who are educating them their own or our own religion, Islam, how they are being taught the real principles of Islam abroad, who are supervising the process of their own education, from which exactly places do they take their rules, and do they are being taught? Who supervise the mosques outside?
They both isolated from the community and marginalized, not take their rights like the ordinary people, European people. It's the main problem. You know, it's a humble district. Then Abu Oud, when they go to arrest Abu Oud, live in a humble, like Egyptian poor district. No equal education, no equal health care, and even you are from the third generation, fourth generation, even the new right political wing insist on to make all the non-pure French or European people to stay. It's the motivation, not the motivation. It's our Arab culture, or then it's a matter of revenge. When someone encounter environment like this, it consider incubated environment to introduce new terrorists, and a need for revenge, a desire for revenge from everything, not from the authority. What's happened to attack a theater or a football stadium or coffee shop? Those people is self-motivated, and ISIS in Europe depends on those that already have the motivation to revenge from their country, from their nation.
So we're speaking here about religion, motivations,
yes.
Economic motivation,
poverty.
Yes, poverty, yes, and yes. Economic situation, not just for people in the Arab countries, but also in Europe, yes. And Western countries, and how they are very much treated. These are all our factors that we should be looking
yes.
at very.
Yes.
And that should also be put into consideration, how yes. to work on yes. On those factors.
This matter is its own matter. This is their baby, not our. And also, they try to correct this in our behalf. Yes, try to make this region and divided this region to be a place for those encounter or involved in terrorism in their land. So they collapse our society and collapse our nation, Iraq, Libya, Syria. Must treatment that we are all in the same world. When you support the terrorists, then they will revenge of you someday.
Never return.
Return to you, yes. Yes. Yes.
Never return back.
Also, if you make extra presses or extra attacks in Syria, then you encounter return in your land.
Yes, indeed, it is.
It's not handling. It's not a good handling. To have a good handling, you must have yes. a plan. Nobody can reach objectives that doesn't define it well.
Yes.
How?
Yes. Unfortunately, our time is up. I have to end it here. Dr. Samir Raghib, strategic and political analyst. We thank you very much for joining us. Terrorism is a very important file that we'll have to deal with once and twice and many times until we can say that we really defeated this disease. Many thanks for watching.